disconnect from the internet.
We're also gonna go down to our system settings,
software,
and we're gonna go to system software update.
Make sure
and
both
settings.
of these options are disabled.
And then if we back out and go to console information,
You need to make sure your firmware version is between 0
for .03 and 10.01.
Any of those firmware versions are compatible to run this jailbreak,
But you have to be within that range if you're on an older
you can
firmware.
update to a firmware from 4.03 to 10.01.
And if you're above 10.0.01,
you will not be able to do this
You'll
jailbreak.
have to wait for a new jailbreak to come out that supports your firmware.
Now-
I'm not gonna show you how you can update your firmware
because
I covered it in my full guide,
which will be left linked in the video description.
and it will be timestamped to play at that exact point, which shows you how to update your firmware. So just check that video in the video description. If you want to update your firmware to a specific version, but as long as you're on
For
0.03 to 10.01, any firmware,
you'll be able to
do this jailbreak okay. So once you've confirmed that you're on a compatible firmware, we need to set
Our
up network settings for the first jailbreak that we're setting
which
up,
is
the Netflix jailbreak. So we're gonna go back into our network
Go to
settings.
settings,
check the box to connect to the internet, and set up an internet connection. Connect to your normal network that you normally connect to. Once you're connected, we're going to press options over that registered network and go to advanced settings. Then we can scroll down to the proxy
and
server.
tell
it to use a proxy server. And then for the address, we want to set the address to
7
to DOT105 DOT15 6.37, so enter that as your proxy address. And then the port number is for 2069 because of course it is. So go ahead and enter that as the address and the port number. And then click OK to get connected back up to your network. So if we select the network and get connected, it will give you an error saying it cannot connect to the internet. But that is intentional, so that is fine. It's just blocking certain connections to Sony servers, but it is giving you the connection that you need okay. So because we're setting up to exploits manually, there's a lot of things that we need to download here. So first of all, XPLK YouTube Jailbreak Autoloader Project, we want to download the download 0. that file from
Also
here.
from
Earth Onion's Netflix and Hack Project. We want the Netflix PS5 extended storage image. So currently, there's only the European version for the PS5. That will do even if you're in a different region. If there are other regions uploaded, then you can go ahead and select the one for your region. But otherwise, just use the European one. And then we have the Balena Etcher software. We need to download this to flash the image to the USB. We also want the PS5 Explorer application from pkgezone.com. We also want the YouTube application from this Mediafire link, along with this YouTube jailbreak update.zip also from
file.
this Mediafire link, which will be in the description. And also the Netcat GUI application, which will also be linked below. And last but not least, we want the ETA hen
So the
payload.
whatever
the latest version is currently to point for B. So we just go ahead and download this. So all of the links for this stuff will be in the video description. Just download them all to your computer and copy them over your desktop. So everything that you see here is what you need to have ready to be able to set up this jailbreak. A lot of things that need to be configured, but I'm gonna walk you through it all step by step. First things first is setting up the Netflix application, the Netflix jailbreak. So the big requirement for this setup is that we need a USB drive that is large enough to be formatted as extended storage for the PS5. So that needs to be a USB drive that is 256 gigabytes or larger in terms of capacity, so it doesn't have to be a specific size. It just needs to be 256 gigs or more, and then you'll be able to use it as an extended storage drive. So that is the requirement. I've got a 2 terabyte drive, which is a bit overkill, but this will do for a drive that we can use. So first of all, what we're gonna do is open up the 7-zip file for Netflix. You need 7-zipper WinRAR for this, which I'll leave linked in the description too. And extract the zip file over to your desktop. Then we're gonna open up Balena Etcher software, and we're going to flash from file. We're basically going to select the IP file that we extracted to our desktop, and then it will come up saying it's missing a partition table. We're just gonna click continue and then select the target drive, which is going to be our USB drive. That is large enough to be formatted here. So obviously back up any data on the drive before selecting it, as this will erase the drive. And then we're going to flash that image onto the drive and say yes. I'm sure and that is going to handle that. It should only take about 5 minutes or so to flash this. It might get stuck at a certain percent for a long time, but that is expected. It will eventually complete. So just give it some time to flash this image onto the drive. Okay, so we're just finishing up flashing to the drive here. Now we're validating, and that should be it done flash completed. So now we can unplug that drive here and plug it into our PS5. Plug it into one of the back USB ports in the PS5. Not the front USB port, okay. So back on the PS5, if we head over to our settings page here, if we scroll down to storage, we can see we have USB extended storage showing up. And if I go to games and apps, we have the Netflix application showing. So all we need to do is select it here and select the option to move. So select items to move, select Netflix and move it to the console storage. And then it should be all ready to go. So there it is, it should now be done. So if we go to the media section, we can see we have Netflix installed. And if we go to information, it is showing it is version 6. And it is installed to the console storage, which is what we want. And now all we need to do is check our IP address. So if we go down to system software console information, you can see our IPv for address is right here. 9.168.37.43. Just gonna keep a mental note of that IP address. And then we're going to run the Netflix application. And that should trigger the jailbreak. Now, this is not a full auto jailbreak, so it doesn't automatically jailbreak the console fully and load the ETA hand payload. That's why we're only using this as a stepping stone to install the auto a loader with the YouTube application, which will run through the entire process automatically, which is a bit faster. So we're just gonna let this run Netflix and hack. Now running the ELF loader, and there we go, serving ELF loader on 270 OT. So that means the jailbreak has been triggered. And now we can send the payload to the console to actually fully jailbreak it. So if we switch back over once again to our computer, so from here on our computer, all we need to do is open up Netcat GUI, the payload injector, and then copy the ETA hen payload inside. Enter the port number as 9021, and then of course the IP address as the IP address of your PS5. And then we click inject payload, and when we do that, we should see it loads the payload on the console. So that is running the jailbreak. The ETA hand payload, the main jailbreak payload for the PS5, and that is it. We are now up and running. So the console is now jailbroken. But obviously, we don't want to use this as our primary method for jailbreaking, because you have to manually send the payload yourself over the network, which is not ideal. Instead, we want to set up the YouTube jailbreak auto-run the jailbreak for us whenever we launch the YouTube application. That is a much easier way to jailbreak. So now that we have the console jailbroken once initially though, we can actually just install the YouTube jailbreak manually without restoring a backup now, okay? So the first step is going to be to remove the extended storage drive. So if we head into our settings, go to storage, go to USB extended storage and tell it to safely remove from PS5. And that will disconnect it. And now we can unplug the USB and plug it back into your computer. At this point, you can use any USB drive of any size as long as it's formatted in exFAT or FAT3 to format. But in my case, I'm just gonna use the same USB that I used for the extended storage method. So to turn this back into a usable drive, I can right-click on the Start button on Windows, and then select the option for Disk Management. And then it will ask me to initialize the disk. So I'll just say OK to initialize it. And then if I scroll down to the bottom, we have this unallocated space, which is our USB drive that had the Netflix app on it. So I'm just gonna right-click on that drive and create volume, a new. I'll click next, and then make sure the file system you set it to exFAT. And then give it a volume label like USB. And then we can go ahead and click next and finish. And that will format the drive. There we go, so now it should be a usable drive again on my computer. So you just need a USB drive. Now that's formatted in FAT or FAT3 to format. And you should be good to go. So we're gonna go into that USB drive. So we want to copy to the root of the USB drive the two package files that we downloaded, the YouTube jailbreak update.zip and the download 0.0 file. So all four of those files we want copied over to the root of our USB drive. And then we can unplug the USB drive and plug it into our PS5. So with the USB we're gonna go into the settings and reconfigure our network settings. Again, we're gonna go into settings, set up an internet connection. Press the options button on your registered network and go to advanced settings. Then from here, we're gonna go to DNS settings and change it from automatic to manual. And set the primary DNS to 7.dot.0.2 for the YouTube jailbreak this time. And then we can get rid of the proxy server and tell it to don't. Do not use a proxy server. So turn the proxy server off, but make sure you have the DNS set to 7.0.0.2 and then click OK. And again, you'll get the same cannot connect to internet message. But we are connected to our network, so once we've done that, we can now install the packages that we put on the USB. So we can go into the debug settings package installer. And in here, we will have the YouTube application and the PS5 Explorer application on the USB that so we can just hit install all and let it install those applications onto the console. So that gets us our homebrew application for the PS5, our File Explorer PS5 Explorer, and the YouTube application, the retail version that we can use to jailbreak. So that should now be available. So in the media section, we now have the YouTube application. Now you should launch the YouTube application at least once to make sure that it creates the proper folders and files on the internal storage. So just launch the YouTube application and then you can go ahead and go to the switcher and close the application. And that will get everything set up and ready. So all we need to do now is install the YouTube autoloader from the USB. So to do that, we're gonna go back into the game section and run the PS5 Explorer application that we installed. And then select root access with X and then press left on the D-pad, which should take you to your USB drive. It might be right on the D-pad for USB 1, but it's usually USB 0. And we want to go down to download 0.0.file and press triangle on it and then select the option to copy this file. Once you've done this, you can then press R3 or just press circle twice to go back to the root directory. And then we're gonna scroll down to the user folder, which is way down here, so go down to the user folder. Press X, then go down to the download folder and press X on that. And then you're looking for the folder pp SAO1650, which is the YouTube app. Select that with X and then press triangle in this folder and paste in your download 0.0.file and overwrite the originals by saying yes. We want to replace the original file and let that do its thing. And that will get the YouTube jailbreak installed. Now there is also an update blocker that you can configure for this. It's technically optional if you leave your DNS as to 7.0.0.2. Then it is not required, but the update blocker can help you. If you accidentally connect back up to your network, it can prevent the YouTube app from being updated. So it's something I would recommend having. Although it is an extra step, so I'll consider this an optional step. But it is something I would recommend doing. So if we press R3 again to go back to the root directory, we can then scroll down to a particular folder, which is gonna be system_data, and press X on that. Then we're gonna scroll down to the priv folder and press X on that. And then we're looking for the MMS folder. Select that folder as well. Then we have a file in here called appinfo.db. We're gonna press triangle on this file, and we're going to send to MNT. USB 0 or USB 1, whichever one is highlighted, and that will copy it over to your USB drive, at which point you can then unplug that USB and plug it back into your computer. If you want to add the update blocker as an extra layer of protection, then you can head over to this GitHub repo here, which I will leave linked in the description, and download the Y to jailbreak. Download 0.1.1.zip or whatever the latest version is. Download that zip file to your computer. Now, if we go back to our USB we have our app info file that we copied over here. We want to take this info editor from this zip file that we downloaded and copy it into the same location as your info.db file. Then we just want to right-click and rename this file. And copy the file name, so Control-C. Copy the file name in this location. You want to right-click and open in Terminal. Now, you can hold down the Shift key to get this option. If you do not have this option when you right-click. And then we simply want to type in Python space. And then right-click to paste in the file name here. And that will run this script with Python. And if we press Enter, you can see it runs the script and basically modifies the database file to block the updates. Now, if that doesn't work and if you press Enter, and instead it just opens up the Microsoft Store, then just go ahead and install Python from the Microsoft Store. Because you probably don't already have it installed on your computer. So just get and install it from the Microsoft Store. Python version 3.11 will do. And then once you have that done, you can then run this command again and it should run the script. So you'll now see there's two files. appinfo.org.db. That's the original backup file for the database. And then we have the modified one here, appinfo.db. So all we need to do is simply plug that USB drive back again, into the PS5. And now that we're back on the PS5, we just again press left on the D-pad to go back to our USB drive. Select the appinfo.db, hover over it, press triangle. Select the option to copy it, then press R3 and go back to that same location again, which was system data priv MMS. So we just head back to that same location, and then simply hover over the appinfo.db file, press triangle and paste into overwrite it. And say yes to overwrite the original file. And that will get the update blocker installed as well. Again, that is an optional step, but something I would recommend. Okay, so once we can go ahead and simply close out of the PS5 Explorer application now. Now all we need to do is restart the console. And we should be able to load the jailbreak using the YouTube jailbreak autoloader. Okay, so after rebooting the PS5 here, if we head to the media section, press options on YouTube and go to information. You can see the version numbers change to 99DOT999DOT999. And that will prevent even if you connect normally to the internet. It will prevent the YouTube application from trying to update because it already thinks it's on a higher version. So that is one of the things that the YouTube update blocker with the database modification does. Now all we need to do is run the YouTube application. And because we have the USB plugged in with the Y to jailbreak .zip file, the YouTube jailbreak should detect that file on the USB and start updating it. Okay, so now we just wait for it to do the update. There we go, it detects the update starting Y to jailbreak update. So found an update on the USB starting extraction. So we just wait for this to complete, extracting all the files. And yep, there we go, update is complete. Removing the update package, and now it should run ETA because ETA hen was included in that update file in that zip. So that's now being updated permanently onto the console storage. So whenever you load this in the future, it will automatically load that particular version. You can see the icon has also changed to Y to JB autoloader, although that might not change immediately. You might have to refresh by logging out and logging back in, or restarting the console for the icon to change. But as you can see, it is now all up and running. We are jailbroken. We have the YouTube jailbreak autoloader fully set up and ready to go. So you no longer need the USB drive that was just for the update. So you can unplug the USB drive. The next time you restart your console and load the YouTube app, it should automatically load ETA hen from the internal console storage automatically, and that is basically it. We use the Netflix application to get set up with the jailbreak via a USB extended storage, just to jailbreak initially, so that we could then manually install the YouTube which jailbreak, can auto-load the jailbreak for us. Just by loading the YouTube application, it handles the rest, loads the entire jailbreak, closes the application once it's done, and then loads the ETA hen payload to get you fully jailbroken. So of course it is quite involved. A lot of different steps involved there. A lot of files that you have to download. That's why I don't really consider this the main method. Setting up the jailbreak for beginners, I would highly recommend the backup and restore method instead. It's a lot easier, but you have the downside of having to lose your save files, install the applications, and all of that kind of stuff when you restore somebody else's backup file. So if you really don't want to lose any of that stuff, then it's definitely recommended to set this up manually instead, even though it is a lot of extra work. Now there is more information covered in the main guide, so I highly recommend you check out that previous guide if you're not sure what to do once you have the jailbreak set up.